Okay, is Lenny joining us today? Or is he tied up?
He's got pretty busy up tonight.
Okay. All right.
If you had any questions for Lenny, I can probably answer them.
All right. Well, I think we have everyone. Rich, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
A little bit.
Kind of.
Why is that so quiet? We'll try that again.
Okay. How about now, Rich?
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
That's horrible.
Some back twinging.
Yeah. Sound like a heavy night of drinking there.
All right, try it one more time.
How about
Rich.
now, Rich?
Yes, sounds good.
Okay.
Beautiful.
We solved the problem. Thanks, Missy. Okay, this meeting of the Board of Public Works is called to order.
We could fire Ed Whites and get Missy on board.
Holy cow, the meeting's gone off the rails already.
Wow.
We do have both commissioners, so we do have a quorum. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Motion by Jared, second by Joe. Any questions on those minutes?
No.
There being none, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All ayes. You also have the reports of the various departments. I'll accept the motion to approve those reports. Motion by Jared, second by Joe. Any questions on any of those? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All ayes. We have no resolutions. We do have claims.
Resolve that claims in the amount of $2,018,427.38 be approved and paid as audited.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Motion by Jared, second by Joe. Now, that number is pretty high this time, and
Construction.
yeah, there's a lot going on, obviously. Infrastructure, we've talked about that throughout the year. I know the media's done reporting on the progress that we've made at the water plant and everything else. So that's what you're seeing here for the most. You see some of that has to do with Wood Street, 24,000, bridges, 238,000 and change. So a lot of projects being wrapped up here. So so we have the motions. Any questions on the claims?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
All ayes. In the miscellaneous, the last meeting we tabled the parking line request on Jane Street, and prior to this meeting, just in the last 30 or 40 minutes, the commissioners and I actually went down to Jane Street, and reviewed it. This is actually the second time we've been over there to look at it. And my thought is, if we allow this, it kind of opens up a Pandora's box, as far as requests go. And this particular request is really beyond the business. It's not next to it or adjacent to it. It's really kind of up the street.
In the residential area.
It is, but I think it really kind of opens up to other residents. And where do you draw the line? Where do you people on Maple Street or people on pick a street, any street throughout the city. When you do it for one, you do it for all. And so just talking to the commissioners and Joe and Jared, if you want to chime in, go ahead. I know we've talked down at the street when we were looking at it.
It just, unless it's deemed commercial and it affects some commercial enterprise, I don't see the need for that. It's in the residential section, and we don't even have crowding on that street as far as parking, where you would like, people generally not sure where to park, so they're parking too close to each other. That's not going on down there.
And I think when he asked for it, he was asking for employee parking, so his employees can park there. And I don't think that we have an obligation to, let employees, spaces off for employees, and that's one of the reasons he was looking to have spaces allotted out there.
Right.
No, employee parking is typically reserved for private property.
Yeah.
You know, city streets, city parking, you know, municipal parking lots. You know, you could, that's open to anyone. You can park, you know, wherever you want, whenever you want for the most part, unless there's a, you know, some sort of restriction placed on it.
Mhm.
But I think I think we're all in agreement, you know, that we're going to deny this request.
Yeah.
Okay. So Missy, would you reach out to Mr. Rose and let him know of our decision?
Absolutely.
Obviously, you know, we have the background. We talked about this at the Law and Ordinance meeting recently and the Common Council meeting on Monday, because we've had a rash of painting in the street, and 2 different instances, and you know, the Spectator had covered this just in yesterday's paper, but on East Washington Street, you had a similar situation where people were painting boxes on the street. And that's another thing that the commissioners and I just reviewed before this meeting. The 2 other instances were, one was political speech, and the other, I think there was profanity written in the street itself. So, you know, you hate to have to legislate these things, but when there's so many instances, you know,
Right.
sometimes you have to, you know, have something on the books to cover these types of things. So we did take that step.
Is there a coating or a paint, Mitch, that you could spray over that stuff, a road, you know, like you see the state doing it when they're redoing lines?
Yeah, we'll get some black marking paint and
Yeah.
blot those out.
Okay.
And then on the larger ones, I think we'll probably use some tar emulsion and just like blacktop sealer, and we'll go over the ones there over on Bennett Street and Walnut Street, I believe they were. We'll just go over and we'll just brush them out with some blacktop emulsion.
Yeah.
Throw a little sand on top so it doesn't spread onto people's cars, and hopefully it doesn't happen anymore.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. But in that ordinance, there is a caveat where, you know, if there is a legitimate request, that will come before this board for consideration. And in that, in the wording, you'll notice there's a caveat, a carve out for chalk. So it's still okay to, you know, draw hopscotch lines on your sidewalk, you know, temporary chalk that kids would typically use, and so that's still okay. But okay, so that's what we had on the agenda. You know, we usually do a roundtable. But today I want to really focus on the water pollution control plant. We've had some issues arise over the past couple of years, really, but it's really started to you know, manifest this year, especially in the form of sludge. So, you know, Mitch or Rich or Shane, if whoever wants to jump in first. Rich, you want to take the lead on this and kind of you know, walk the commissioners and I through it?
Sure. I have a couple of different parts of the presentation. And the first one is to describe the permitting process and how we submitted a delayed application to the DEC for our permit renewal. The DEC gives us a 5-year permit to apply the biosolids to the farmers' fields. And every 5 years, they ask us to come back with a permit application. And that permit application has a deadline of January of 2020, this year. And in the past couple of years, we've seen an increased amount of sludge generation within the plant. And Dan Knoll, our engineer with Labella Associates, and I got together and discussed how we were going to go about this permit renewal. And we submitted a permit renewal based on the same 150-ton limit per year that we have always had. And we hoped that we would get a renewal back in short order, and then we would ask the DEC to modify that permit to 500 tons, because in the last couple of years, we've seen an increase in sludge generation at the plant. And we attribute that increased generation to a couple of things. When the DEC required us to start removing phosphorus from our plant, we added aluminum sulfate to take the phosphorus out, which can increase sludge generation from 30 to 40% at a plant. It's documented, and we shared this information with the DEC. And we also saw, we had an incidental problem with one of our industries this past summer. We made an assessment when we lost our permit that we could make it through this coming winter with the amount of sludge storage space that we had. We had 2 empty tanks in August. And we said, you know, it's going to be close, but if we're careful and we can't and check on the tanks every day, we'll probably be okay. And shortly after that, we started to see an increased inflow of sludge to the plant that we attributed to a mechanical failure. So it took us a week or two to fix the seal on this pump. And then we continued to see the sludge generation that should have gone away when we fixed this seal. Well, around the beginning of October, we heard that Crowley Foods was having a problem at their facility. They have to clean their tanks religiously every time they make a new batch of cottage cheese or onion dip or whatever they're making. They use a caustic cleaner, and they just happened to switch suppliers of this caustic this year. And they couldn't get a handle on the chemistry that they needed. And so they began using more and more of this caustic. And when they sent this caustic down to their treatment facility in Arcport, their biolife was affected by the change in pH. The caustic raised the pH of the wastewater in general to a point where it disrupted the biolife. And if there's no biolife or impeded biolife, then they can't affect the treatment process. And so what we started to see was a sludge blanket that came over their weirs and came into our plant. And they didn't inform us of this. We called them up around November 3rd and said to the plant manager that we were having problems with the amount of sludge that we were generating, and that we were going to exceed the amount of storage capacity that we have at the plant, and that we took photos of their treatment system and identified a characteristic sludge in their plant that we had seen throughout our own facility at the Hornell sewage treatment plant. And I requested that the Crowley Foods discontinue using this new caustic until their microlife could recover. And, you know, they couldn't just shut down the facility, but they did try to seriously cut back on the volume that they used. And sure enough, within a couple of weeks, now their facility looks very good, and our facility is looking very good. Now, during the time that this occurred, our employees go up to Crowley Foods every day. They grab a sample, they record the flow, they make observations, and then they bring that sample back to the lab and test it. And those test results generate the bill that we send to Crowley's every quarter. And last quarter, they exceeded the permit limits to the extent that it cost them an extra $5,000 in fines for overages that they sent to our plant. And so far this quarter, the first month, October, we have also accumulated another $8,000 in fines going into the next quarter's bill. So we are going to charge them $13,000 for their problems that they've had. But we also have this sludge problem that we've generated that we need to take care of. And we've done a lot to find alternative methods to solve the problem. We're going to permit trucks to take the sludge to Canandaigua and Rochester. We're going to rent some extra storage space in case of emergency, and that's costly. And the main solution to the problem is we're going to rent a belt press and take our sludge from a 5% solids, run it through the press with a polymer, turn it into 20% solids, and then we can take that sludge to the landfill. This is going to be very expensive. The press costs a certain amount of money, and I've asked Shane to come to the meeting today to explain the costs associated with the method of using a belt press. Shane, you want to fill the commissioners in on that?
Rich, Shane's here. I just gave the commissioners the proposal from MSD.
Okay, maybe you want to talk about that, Mitch?
No, Shane's fine.
So basically, running a belt press, you have kind of a limited number of expenses, but a couple of them are pretty significant, I guess. First of all, the rental of it is like $22,000 around there per month. Minimum rental time is 1 month. That's kind of a key thing to remember. To actually run the press, you need to buy a chemical called polymer. Basically, all it does is just it's a flocculant, so it catches all the solids in the sludge. Then you're able to press it, all the water runs off, and then you take the solids to the landfill. So landfill is going to be another pretty significant expense. I came up with 625 tons that need to go to landfill. Steuben County's rate is $37 per ton. So that comes out to somewhere around 23,000 just in landfill expenses.
What was that number?
23,000. So just between the press rental and landfill fees, you have just short of 50,000. Polymer is going to be around 4,500 for the amount of sludge that we need to process. So you're looking at, I mean, after extra fuel and all that, probably a total cost around 65,000 for everything to do 600,000 gallons of sludge.
And we were going to try to do more than the 600,000 gallons. We were going to try to increase tanks if we can in that 30-day period, and that would give us enough space at the plant for about a year of storage. So it'll be about 900,000 gallons we're going to try to get rid of. And that translates to tons of dry sludge was 700 and something, wasn't it?
Yeah, the extra tank would be, that's another 300,000 gallons, so around 325 tons. And probably $11,000 in landfill fees, but really the press rental is already included because you have to rent that for a month anyways. And to process the 600,000 gallons that we absolutely need to get rid of, that's going to take, I figured, around 2 weeks. So press is going to be sitting there for another 2 weeks anyways. So really the only expenses after that are polymer and landfill fees, just to process more if we need to.
And I think we were talking about 75 trips to either Steuben County or Cassellas landfill.
How is the sludge? So once you run it through the belt press, how is the finished product actually shipped out?
In dump trucks.
Okay.
Our 2 10-wheelers.
Okay.
That'll be.
And how many trips?
Probably 75.
75 trips. So right there, I mean, that's a lot of extra fuel.
I mean, there won't be any overtime. It'll be fuel itself.
Mhm.
We don't really count our hourly wage.
Right.
The guy's driving. So.
Well, but it does pull them from other jobs that they'd be working on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And as you know, we're short-staffed anyhow, so we're going to get through it.
This is not a good situation down to have. So going forward, we obviously have this problem. Rich, in your discussions with Crowley's, what are we doing to make sure that this doesn't happen again? Because it sounds like, according to you, they didn't notify us. They should absolutely notify us if they're changing products, if they're, creating a situation which, sends more sludge our way. They're putting that on our taxpayers, then, they should be held accountable for it.
I agree, Your Honor. Just switching the cleaners would trigger usually a notice from the plant like this. They missed the ball and didn't let us know. And to compound matters, when they started having problems with the caustic cleaner impeding their treatment plant process, they certainly, out of courtesy, could have let us know. The problem lasted 3 months before I made contact with their front office and spoke with the general manager. And their maintenance manager apologized to us and said, this has been going on for some time. They certainly have some part in this to help us take care of this burden. They generated a certain amount of this sludge, and for that we have billed them $13,000 in fines so far this year. And I think that once we have a final bill, we should try to figure a percentage of the problem that is dedicated to Crowley's for that 3-month period and bill them accordingly.
We absolutely should, because our taxpayers shouldn't have to shoulder the burden of a problem created outside of the city.
That's right. The sewage treatment plant is there every day to take care of the needs of the people of Hornell first and foremost. And when a condition like this impacts the ability of the treatment of the Hornell sewage treatment plant to provide service to its taxpayers who support us daily, then, this is just one more consideration for billing them this part of this outstanding cost.
And when a problem at Crowley's does arise, they need to notify us immediately. It is unacceptable for weeks and months to go by without reporting an issue. I mean, were they turning a blind eye to it?
I don't think so. As I said, our operators go to their facility every day, and we have a pretty good relationship with Crowley's work people. They let us know if something's going on like this, generally speaking. And I don't think they were trying to cover it up, but they certainly should have let us know that there was some kind of problem going on so that we could track it better.
So in your discussions with the general manager, he said it's been going on for quite some time. What was his reasoning? Why didn't he pick up the phone and call us?
He didn't say. It was just something that they thought that they could work out and didn't realize that the size of the impact to the Hornell plant. And so it took for us to see the sludge, the physical nature of it showing up in our plant to say, yeah. And so Josh Shelpa went up and looked in their tank and took photographs, and then just looking at the nature of what was going over the final weir and into the common sewers, we looked around our plant and we took photos. We sent them to the general manager and said, look, it's quite clear to us that this problem was generated by your facility. And there was no disagreement there.
Rich, when we get a better handle on the price, can we, we'll set up a meeting with Rusty and go over all this?
Yes, I be glad to let them know that this is something we would like to discuss with them further.
Okay. Well, we do have the process in place to, I mean, ultimately we have to get rid of the sludge because it can't just overflowing. We have to get rid of it one way or the other. So
Shane, did you tell them that the steps that we're taking that satisfies the DEC with this? What our steps are?
So far this, I mean, late fall, early winter, we were able to land apply. That's typically what we do with the sludge, is just land apply it. But
So we have a ceiling on our permit.
yeah, like we hit the limit this year, and we surpassed it last year, 2 years ago. So this late fall, early winter, just actually a couple weeks ago, we were able to get rid of some of it, land apply.
100,000 gallons.
Yeah, which kind of opens up a little bit of
Gives you a little wiggle
I
room.
guess. Another thing is we're looking into renting frac tanks, which buys us a little bit more insurance, just in case, just for emergencies, I guess.
I didn't give you all the paperwork. The DC, Dan Knoll came up, Dan and Rich and Shane came up with a plan. We originally wanted to take it and put it in one of our old settling ponds down back, but they were very uncomfortable with that. They wanted us to put a HDPE liner and a rubber liner in the settling pond, which would have been $100,000 for a very short term. So that really didn't work for us. Dan Knoll and Rich and Shane and came up. Did you ever see those big blue rain for rent? They use them they're called frac tanks. They're 22,000 gallons a piece, I think. The DC wants us to rent 3 of those to set along the side in case our sludge production, we can't get rid of it. So we have a storage area for it. So we have to rent 3 of those. They were fairly inexpensive, $25 a day or something like that to rent one of those. The press is the major item, to press the sludge into a dry cake, and then we'll get it off to landfills. We're working with landfills right now with we're getting chemical analysis on our sludge, asking Steuben County and to sell us for prices per ton to get it so we can take it to landfill. We won't know exactly the permit process from those people. We have to press some first and get what's called a paint filter test to see how much water comes through it, because they don't want this excess water into their landfills for leachate. So we're going to be waiting on that. And then just trucking costs. We have to buy some plastic bags to put in our trucks to dump the cake into and then haul it away. Right? But that came up. The DC wanted to plan, and they wanted to know what we were going to do. John has those letters. Tara Blum from the DEC, she was very nice. She helped us along as much as she could. We came up with a plan. She came right back and said, "Yep, we agree with what you guys are doing. We're sorry that you have to do it, but going forward, this will get us out of where we're at right now." And we had actually talked about going to Crowley's. I'm just reiterating, and having a conference with them. If something changes in their plant, they need to let us know sooner than later, and so we can be on top of things like that. Just an unfortunate incident.
All right. Well, I mean, the important thing is we fix the problem now, and then put in measures so we don't have it again.
So once our permit, the new permit process has to go through a public comment period. It has to go through seeker. Once our new permit process is in place, I think we're looking at, Rich, was that 550 tons that we were looking for the new permit?
500 tons.
500 ton. So if we get that 500 ton permit and we do that every year, we'll never have to do this again. We'll have plenty of capacity, and we have plenty of acreage to land. It's the cheapest thing we can do is land apply our sludge. Eventually, if they ever tell us that we can't land apply our sludge, we'll have to buy a belt press, build a building, and this will happen all the time. But that's down the road.
Yeah.
That's probably our only option if we can't land apply anymore.
Right. Well, hopefully, I mean, is there a circumstance where the DEC would not let us? I mean, the farmers obviously.
Well, I think Rich could speak to that. A while ago, we had a zinc problem.
Yeah.
And we couldn't land apply as much because of the heavy metals. And as they get more stringent, the regulators may get more stringent with us and might not let us apply sometime in the future. But that's where we'll have to head, in that direction.
But you have the willingness and cooperation of the farmers.
We do have the willingness and cooperation, but
they are regulated by
Mhm.
analysis.
Right.
So, I mean, hopefully our sludge won't change. It's pretty innocuous right now. There's not a lot of stuff in it, you know, industrial wise, I think, right? So we're pretty good right now. But over time, that could change. You know, things build up in the soil and it gets crazy, and we might have to do that someday.
Okay.
And as previous administrations, Chesapeake Bay Initiative, you see that we bill off for the Chesapeake Bay to pay for the alum to get the phosphorus out of our waste stream so it doesn't go to the Chesapeake Bay. And way back when we fought that for at least 3 years as much as we could, and finally the EPA said, no, you're doing it, and this is what you're doing, and this is some of the aftermath of that also. You know, once you put the aluminum sulfate in it, it pulls more solids out of the stream and
Creates more sludge.
it creates more sludge.
Yeah. Yeah. So Chesapeake Bay does factor into this, no doubt about it.
It does factor
It
in.
has for some time.
Oops. Yeah. So it's just we're on the top of the curve right now, unfortunately.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Rich?
No,
No.
pretty complete. Thank you, Rich.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Real quickly, you want to just go over what we're doing in DPW right now, transitioning into the cold season?
Oh, yeah. So we had the salt truck out, so put your good vehicles away. We had the salt truck out. The police called the other night for some reason, I guess. But we ran the first salt truck route night before last. Yeah, they call, we go. Vacation, we're trying to use up some vacations down at the garage. You know, we have like 12 people down there, so everyone's got time. So our numbers are dwindling this month and next month for a little bit. They'll always come in for emergencies and plowing and stuff like that, but we have to use vacation.
Probably seen some vacation time stack up because of COVID and travel restrictions. People would normally take some vacations in the warmer weather.
Yeah,
Probably
little
may
bit there.
not have.
We're trying to push them. Some people
Yeah.
will carry a week over.
Mhm.
Not too bad. The hot plant is all done for the season for blacktop, so we're in probably cold patching right now. If we get those little things cold patching. East Main Street Bridge, I'm late for the 10:30 meeting, but that's 99% done. We're waiting on guide rail on the lower side. As soon as the guide rail's up, we'll open it up and traffic will flow. I'm hoping that's going to happen before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
I think Friday. They're talking tomorrow maybe. We're just waiting on contractors.
Matter of days.
So, yeah, pavilion drainage. That'll all be out of our way. Water treatment plant. The 2 million gallon tank is up. They sealed it off yesterday, I believe. They chlorinated inside. I believe in the next 3 weeks they'll start filling that with water, getting that ready to go again. So things are progressing up there. The number one clarifier, there's probably a crane up here today. They're putting the metal in place and getting that all back together now. The old clarifier that we left in the big hole there, that's coming along. That's moving along up there, starting to get into a little bit of winter weather and the rain and stuff, so that impedes. And they'll be going inside for the SCADA work, putting the computer stuff inside and getting the automatic valves working and stuff like that. So that'll be going on through in the next year for sure. Garage wise, we're picking up bag leaves like crazy. They're out there everywhere. The windstorm we had last week didn't really cause any havoc for Public Works. We had a power outage up at, NISEC had a power outage up at the Walmart Plaza, which affected our pump station for about 4 hours, but we didn't have any issues with that. It just didn't work. So that's going along that way. And we've got our plows up and ready for snow.
Mm-hmm.
Just doing a little housekeeping, raking leaves and stuff like that.
We're cleaning. We stand on top of the DIs, make sure they're clear.
Yeah. The street sweeper is still out on non-freezing days right now.
Yeah.
Grabbing as much as we can.
Okay.
Can't get the big piles, but we get the little ones here and there.
Mm-hmm.
So ask people to bag those leaves up.
Bag them up, take them down.
Bag them up. We've been working, I think all month on this Rich's problem.
Yeah.
Not the plant, this waste problem. There's quite a bit of the puzzle to put together before we get going before the 15th.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
But it's falling in together.
All right. Well, guess that's all we have. And that's enough. All right. Anything from the commissioners?
Right.
All right. Anything from Chris Potter? Any questions?
All set, thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Joe, second by Jared. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
That's the one on this one. Or just, you don't do that. Yeah, it's gotta be cellular.
That's video.
Oh, that's not, oh, all right. So that's still moving.
Well,
Yeah.
well, have a good Thanksgiving, you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good to see you, stranger. Holy cow. I don't think I've ever seen you anywhere outside of the plant.
That's true.
Do you live there?
Sometimes it feels like it.
That's the camera then for this, and then you just use that for.
Sound and that for video.
So you've got to replace that flight's right here.
That far away.
So a couple building issues that are coming up, roofs. I just
Sure.